All right, y'all. So this episode is going to be about communism. As you can see, I'm going to read here what it says about communism, and then I'm going to break that down and explain what it really means, and pretty much how it is today, and how you can identify it, the goods and the bads about it, and all that stuff. Okay, so first and foremost, as you can read here. Communism is a philosophical, social, political, and economic ideology and movement whose ultimate goal is the establishment of a communist society, namely a socio-economic order structured upon the ideas of common ownership of the means of production and the absence of social classes, money, and the state. Now, for those of you who didn't totally grasp what I just read, allow me to break it down a little bit. So, communism is multifaceted. Obviously, it's social, political, economic. It's in essence, it's a way of life. Like if you're a communist, that's like your life. Now, for instance, here in America, we have a two-party system where you're Republican or Democrat, but that's not like a way of life where it's the way not to that degree. You know what I mean? Like obviously, there are things that you would expect a Republican person to do as opposed to a liberal person to do in this country, but it's not like a way of life, like that's it. When you're a communist, that has to be your way of life. Everything has to be party first. The party comes before everything. So, it literally takes up your whole entire life. And then as you can see here, namely a socioeconomic order structured upon the ideas of common ownership and the means of production. Common ownership and means of production doesn't mean that you and I own and common like that. It means common upon the state, i.e., the country or the government that's ruling with the communist fist. So that means that they own everything. Communism, the state, the government, they own everything. You don't own anything anymore. Like right now, you may own some property, or your family might own like a beach house somewhere or whatever, or they might own a company or something like that, a small business or a large business. In communism, nope, that's not the case. And it says ownership of the means of production and the absence of social classes, money, and the state. So that's what communism tries to do, is to get rid of social classes. Now, as I go deeper into this, you're gonna see how it's kind of contradictory to itself. And obviously, there's many things that sound great on paper, but then in reality, it's just not the same. I know there's plenty of people out there that know people that are idealists, and don't get me wrong, it's great to have vision and stuff like that, but you can't just we don't live in an ideal world. There is sin, there's human error. So it's not ideal. You can't just trust humans. And pretty much what it comes down to in communism, at least from my perspective, is that if you give all the power to the state is a human. Someone's making decisions. Now here in America, we have, we have issues here, but that's because you're going to have issues. You're going to have error. We're humans, but we do have checks and balances, which does, for the most part, check each level. Now, I feel, or I believe in recent history, that we've been getting away from that. Kind of like the presidents have just been doing whatever the hell they wanted to do, and without any checks or balances. And then obviously the Supreme Court judges pretty much just changing laws however they see fit, which I guess to a degree is kind of what they're supposed to do, but kind of not. And that's a different conversation for a different day, definitely. But anyway, going on. So, communism was started by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, right? And I believe they were both German. And Karl Marx was like basically a poor guy, a writer, and he traveled, because obviously he's poor, so he was moving around a lot. And Engels came from a well-off background and had money. Now, Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto with the help of Friedrich Engels, who pretty much helped fund it. And in the manifesto, which is pretty much like the Holy Bible for communism, it outlines kind of what I just said in that little first paragraph here, but it goes into deeper detail about the who's, the what's, and whys, and the hows. And the who's are actually actually I might say it here, yeah, right here. So in communism, they break it down like this: the two classes are the proletariat, which is the working class, which would be the majority of people in favor of communism. Who make up the majority of the population within society and must work to survive. And the bourgeoisie, which is the capitalist class, a small minority who derives profit from employing the working class through private ownership of the means of production. According to this analysis, revolution would put the working class in power and in turn establish social ownership of the means of production, which is the primary element in the transformation of society towards communism. So, like I said before, they're trying to, the absence of classes, but they distinctly point out two classes here, and their whole goal is to pretty much get rid of that one class. But again, this is all ideological thinking. You can never get rid of the other class. There's always going to be those with and those without. Like you're always gonna have, like, just how you always have up, you're always gonna have down. And as long as you have right, you're gonna have left. Like you just can't get rid of it. And that again, when you look at our society, our capitalistic society, yes, there's going to be rich people. There's going to be rich people, and there's going to be poor people. There's going to be really, 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 really rich people, and there's going to be really, really, really fucking poor people. That's just the nature of the system. It has to be, and there's no system that can work. At least up until this date, there hasn't been one that can work that without it. So there's always going to be that disparity there. So now, obviously, most people, are working class, so they're not rich, and when they might hear something or some excerpts from communist speeches or whatever, they might say, wow, that makes sense. Or even now with some of the people in the Democratic Party who are now like, oh, this should be for free and we should do this and that. You have to understand something. Those are steps towards socialism. Any kind of socialist party, people's party, stuff like that, that's all communist. Now they call it socialist, it's communist, and it's Marxist. That's just what it is. It's not me trying to, spew misinformation or hate towards those groups. It's just I know what those groups are, what they stand for, and when the more you read and learn about different things, the easier it becomes for you to identify these things when it comes up. So, my whole take on communism is simple. I'm going to give a little analogy, or let's try to. So, like I said, Karl Marx himself was pretty much poor with many kids. And it's ironic that a poor person would write something that says pretty much take from the rich and give to the poor, almost Robin Hood style. Now, it might sound virtuous, but it's not, because again, that's a straight ideal. Now, for instance, in America, there's some poor people, but you know how many poor people there are or were in America that were able to turn their life around and become rich? Like, there are success stories. And then I know there's people that's going to be like, oh, well, that's far and few between. Yes and no. There's a lot. In every generation, there's hundreds of different turnaround success stories. So in America, is it perfect? No. But when you boil it all down and think about the opportunity that you really truly have here, especially this day and age, every time you turn around, there's a new TikTok person out here that's rising to fame or stuff like that. Like, for instance, look at Jake Paul, Logan Paul, YouTubers. There's many YouTubers that get rich and famous every year. There's people that start their own businesses every year and become well off. Am I saying that they're uber rich? No, but they're able to lead, full functioning, comfortable lives and support their families. And at the end of the day, that's what I want. I don't need all the money in the world, or like a crazy amount. I just want to be able to live my life peacefully, comfortably, and be able to provide for my family, and that's pretty much it. And I would love to do what I love to do, and doing so, but that's why I'm in the process of transitioning my life, my career right now into something that I want to do. And again, so I say that to say this: communism would have you say, you know, screw this. Let's just make it even playing field, yada yada. I don't want to try. Forget it. Let's just make everything all even across the board. But in America, you have to believe. You have to believe in yourself, and ideally believe in a higher power. Now, in communism, like I said, they strip you away of that belief. There's no reason to believe in yourself. All you need to do is believe in the state, and the state's going to take care of you. When you're hungry, the state's going to feed you. When you're cold, the state's going to give you that stuff. There's no human. I'm not even sure if I can say human, because so many people out there believe in communism. I'll just say it's not that American feel where it's like, what, I'm going to do this shit on my own. That go get it mentality, that belief in self. And as you can see, there's a lot of people out there that don't have any belief in self. And maybe because they don't believe in anything higher than themselves. And I'm not trying to get freaking religious over here. More or less, where I'm going is spiritual. You have to have belief in something that ain't the state. Don't believe in the state. You can't trust the state. So it would be great if you could put that belief in a higher power, or at the very least in yourself. Believe in yourself to say, you know what, I'm gonna get up every day at the crack of dawn, and I'm gonna read a book. I'm gonna read books on whatever topic that it is, and then after a year, you're gonna take that knowledge and go begin to apply it, and then change your fortunes. We all can do that. In America, we have lottery. We have poker. People, you know how many people become rich every year off poker? You know how many people lose all their money every year off poker? Still, the opportunity is there. So we need to, instead of just saying let the state do it, we need to say, you know what? Nah, like, I'm going to do this, because you do control your fortunes for the most part. Now, are there things that just happen? Yes. Unfortunate events do happen, and we can't control that. But you can control what you can control, which is getting off your ass, learning something new. Even if you're in a job that you don't like, say you're making a lot of money in the field, but you're miserable. Yeah, you have a lot of money, but you're miserable. Hey, you know what? Like I just said, start reading some books, or learn something else, and then go out and apply it, because money can't buy you happiness. Money cannot buy you happiness. So at the end of the day, we're gonna have to find our happiness, which is, again, is in our Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. And again, that's protected by the Constitution, which communism does not. They do not offer that. So, in a nutshell, when in this breakdown of communism, I hope that you understand the clear distinctions of what communism is, juxtaposed to what the society that we live in is, and I don't really want to say pros and cons, because again, communism is a great ideological method of life, but again, we live in the real world where there's human error that we have to account for, which is unaccounted for in the Communist Manifesto. So, and then also how to recognize communism today. Like, again, if you see any parties or movements with the words like, workers' rights or socialist, yada yada, or things like that, those are typically going to be communist fronts. And don't get it twisted. Communism is here in America in many different ways. Black Lives Matter movement, the leaders are Marxists. They're trained Marxists, and that's according to them. So I don't know who trained them, but obviously they're trained in Marxism. So don't let people fool you into believing that Marxism is good for you. especially you black folk out there. Marxism is not good for you. It's bad for you. So that's gonna wrap it up. I didn't want this video to be that long. Obviously, I could have went longer about it because obviously communism has been around for a long time. It has a dare I say great history. Not great, but the history itself is vast. That's what I mean when I say great in that regard. But I'm just gonna keep it short. If anyone has any questions, by all means, reach out to me, and I can refer you to some of the books that I've read, and also just by again, you gotta look around at what communism has done across the globe, and then go from there, and then ask yourself, would you really like to see America as a communist country? I.e., do you really not believe in yourself enough that you're willing to bow down and let the state take care of you? No, I'm not. Peace.